everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the sixth tasting of Beauj 2026. As you can see, back in DC, making this recording. At my house in DC, you may hear some noise in the background. I'm getting some foundational work done that's still going on, so you may hear some jackhammer, all that background noise. So I apologize, but it just kind of, what's happening here? Anyways, we're tasting this guy right here. 2023 Laurent Perrachon Terres Rose. I actually don't know how to pronounce that in French. Terres, Moulin-a-Vent is basically what we're tasting today. We featured Laurent Perrachon last year as well, but we did his Julienaz. He's actually a Julienaz producer. He's based in Julienaz, but he makes wines in many different places around Beaujolais. So this year we're featuring his Moulin-a-Vent. But also, I thought it was going to be warm here in DC, so I did not bring my tasting onesie because it's too damn hot now. But turns out it is quite cold here. It is 50 degrees, so here I am. Instead, I'm wearing here little, Patagonia little sweater. So excuse my very, homey sweater vibe, but this is the only really warm thing that I brought from South Carolina because I thought it was going to be warm. Anyways, let's get into it. All right, so we're in France. Let's start with the map. You guys all have access to this. So we're in France. You should know where Beaujolais is by now. You do have that map, attachment number 1, which is a French map. And then if you go to the attachment number 2, the title Beaujolais, you'll see where Moulin-a-Vent is. We were in Chenin last week, right? We're moving down from Saint-Amour, Julienaz, and Chenin. And I alluded to this last week, but Chenin, particularly the bottling that we had from Chenin last week, had a little bit of manganese running through its soil. And if you remember where the exact actually plot or Ludi was within Chenin, it was actually right on the border with Moulin-a-Vent. So it makes sense that it has some manganese, and I alluded to the fact that we're going to talk more about this come this week. But really, what sets Moulin-a-Vent apart is the manganese. So if you go to the attachment number 3, Beaujolais soil map, you see how you see where Moulin-a-Vent is, and you can kind of see all that red marking that's all up there. So we're talking about all the granite that's come through, and then you go to Moulin-a-Vent, the attachment number 4, which is the actual soil map of the Moulin-a-Vent itself. And as you can, and I said this last week as well, but the town of Chenin is actually in the crew of Moulin-a-Vent because the demarcation line has changed. So that's why you see that name Chenin in a Moulin-a-Vent, but this is a Moulin-a-Vent soil map. And in case you were wondering, where is a town of Moulin-a-Vent? Moulin-a-Vent is one of the few places, I believe it's actually the only crew, if I'm not mistaken, where there is no namesake town that exists inside the crew, or the crew is not named after the town, the central town that it's in. So this is actually named after a windmill, and in French, a windmill is Moulin-a-Vent. So if you ever go to France, or if you ever go to Beaujolais and you go to crew of Moulin-a-Vent and you're looking for a town of Moulin-a-Vent, you won't find it because it doesn't exist. But you will see a windmill on top of the hill here, which is what this town is named after. This is where, with the Moulin-a-Vent, this is where the fruit character really starts to change from red fruit and darker black fruit. Depending on where you are within Julienaz and in Chenin as well, you will see some of the dark fruit coming through. We certainly saw that last week as well. But in general, this is where the fruit profile really changes from that kind of like a tart, red cherry driven flavor profile in the northern tip of Beaujolais to really start getting into kind of blackberries and black cherries and some plums even. Some of that coming through. The wines also start to get a lot more structured, so you see a lot more tannin, a lot more mineral, a lot more granite influence starting to come through. And you start to see some real aging potential here. It's definitely Moulin-a-Vent is definitely one of the most longer lived crews of them all in Beaujolais. Definitely a crew where you want to pick up a few bottles, and lay down over time, and it will improve over time if you like that wine. I mentioned this. What makes Moulin-a-Vent unique is that manganese that runs through. We've been talking a lot about granite, influence of granite. You saw that on the soil map, but particularly the pink granite, right? Like that's kind of like what runs through most of Beaujolais. But here in Moulin-a-Vent, like I mentioned, it's the manganese that runs through. So there are these kind of veins of manganese that kind of run through this area, and the manganese is actually toxic to grapevine. So it actually reduces the yield, both vegetatively or vegetatively, I think that's the right word to say. It's all basically vines, the leaves, where the phenolics come from, the kind of vegetative part of the plant as well as the fruit itself. So it reduces the yield, but what it does in return is that it concentrates the flavors, each berries that actually do come out, or the parts of the fruit that actually, the plant that actually bears the fruit becomes much more concentrated, makes for better wine and more complex and concentrated wine. And I say this every year, but there's a bit of a gender normative terms that come with Moulin-a-Vent and Fleury, which is the crew that we're going to talk about next week. And it's always fun to taste those back to back. These 2 weeks are really kind of fun to do because they're so different in terms of the expression and style. But this one, the Moulin-a-Vent, is oftentimes nicknamed King of Beaujolais. And Fleury, which we'll taste next week, is usually named the Queen of Beaujolais. Stylistically, the Moulin-a-Vent, like I mentioned, this is much where dark fruit comes in. It gets really much more structure, much more burly. And as opposed to Fleury, which is a lot more lifted, floral, really pretty. So again, hate to put, not saying that women cannot be strong and structured and rigid and men cannot be lifted, ethereal, and pretty and all of that. But that's what they call it. So they call Moulin-a-Vent the King of Beaujolais and Fleury a Queen of Beaujolais. If you're looking for some value wines to put down in your cellar for a few years, Moulin-a-Vent is definitely a good candidate for that, like I mentioned. Moulin-a-Vent, I think Côte de Bruy, some Juliana Chenas as well, but really the Moulin-a-Vent, parts of Morgon, and then Côte de Bruy are definitely some of the crus that are not only the most well-known, but also the ones that definitely has really long aging potential. So good candidate for you to kind of pick up a few bottles and forget about for a few years. Let's talk about who makes this wine. You guys will get pictures, but there's a family picture. Looks like a very wholesome French family. Laurent Perrachon is the dad. It's the guy in the center of the picture who's sitting down with a black sweater. Their family winery, Domaine Laurent Perrachon, is actually in Julienaz, like I mentioned. So he's the heart of their operation, their family estate, all of that is in Julienaz. They started in Julienaz, but now they have land holding in 5 other crus, as it says right here. In that kind of sign that they're all standing and sitting around in the picture. So they make wines in Julienaz, of course, which we featured last year. Morgon, Fleury, Chenas, Saint-Amour. So they make wines they also have regional Beaujolais and Beaujolais Village. So they make wines pretty much all over Beaujolais. But this year we are featuring their Moulin-a-Vent. Martine and Laurent, which are the mom and dad in the center of the picture, they are the 5th generation of the family. And then the rest of them, Maxime, Adrian, I couldn't find it last year, I still can't find it this year, but the kid on the far left of the sign in the picture, I don't know his name, but I imagine that he's one of the sons. I think the girl is a girlfriend or maybe wife of one of the kids. But anyways, it's so 5th and 6th generation of the Perrachon family continue on the family tradition. The Perrachon family has been making wine here in Julienaz since 1877, so long time. but the earliest traces of family in the wine trade, actually goes even further back to 1600, 1601. So this is a family that has been really kind of making wine or growing grapes and being involved in wine trade in one shape or another for a very, very long time. There are some other names, and I didn't know this either. And then it was funny because these are interesting enough. This happens time to time in the wine world where one family or one producer owns kind of different domains, different wineries, and they're all distributed or imported by different people, different companies in US. So, you would think that they would all want to be imported through the same company, but that's not the case. So I just found out not too long ago that all these different wineries that I was kind of casing through, I kind of saw a similar kind of a thread, and then, just doing the research and all of that, I came to find out these are actually Laurent Perrachon's winery. So Domaine de la Botière, that's the kind of the heart of the operation in Julienaz. That was the one bought in 1877. And then there's a Domaine de Perrelles, Perelles, that's in Moulin-a-Vent. And then Domaine de Mouilles, Mouilles. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation. That's also in Julienaz, and that was purchased later in 1989. So again, all these things are different places. However, this one is just made, is a different label called Laurent Perrachon. So I'm assuming, I couldn't verify this, I'm assuming that this is actually made in Domaine de la Botière, which is the winery that they make wine in. And then it's a different line. Maybe it's like a younger vine. I actually think we'll talk more about this when we get to the production method or technical part of this wine. But I think this is a kind of a different expression style that he's trying to make, which we'll talk about right now. By the way, they are currently in the process of eliminating all chemical products in the field. So really starting to, they buy into that idea of sustainable farming and non-interventionist winemaking, all of that, despite the size and wherever they make wine. All right, so what is this wine? This is 100% Gamay. Average vine age is 50 years old, grown on granite with high manganese content. We talked about that manganese. 25 to 60% is destemmed. So it's hard to say how much is destemmed. It just says 25-60%, depending on the vintage, that will change. And then, so whatever the rest of the portion is a whole bunch, which is what goes through carbonic, but the rest of it is actually just macerated, made in stainless steel. So it's partial carbonic, semi-carbonic is what we're talking about here. What percentage of the wine was carbonically macerated, I could not tell you. The importer didn't have that information. Their website is notoriously terrible. I couldn't really get much information on Laurent Perrachon himself or the family history. In fact, their website, which was under maintenance now, and there's no information on there now. So sorry that I couldn't give you much information, but yeah. So that 25 to 60 destem portion goes through a pneumatic press, and then it's vinified in a stainless steel vat. And this is where, remember I was saying that I think this is a new kind of line that they're putting out, just to kind of showcase different style. So this part, the vinification of the destem berries in stainless steel part, from what I could find, it doesn't say where these wines, how this wine was aged, and almost all of Beaujolais, particularly Cru Beaujolais, is aged to a certain degree. Whether it be short a few months to 2 years before it gets released. But this one, I could not find much aging information whatsoever. So I found some conflicting or different information on the internet. So depending on which site that you trust, and of course, I could not reach out to the importer, or importer didn't have the information, or the request for information from the producer has not come through, so we don't know. But tech sheet doesn't specify this either. But I find some different information saying some site says that it's a mix of barrel and tank aging, so perhaps the destem portion gets vinified and aged in stainless steel, and then the carbonic part perhaps sees the oak, or vice versa. So there's some sort of stainless steel as well as some oak barrel, mixture of barrels, and fougère. Fougère is the big gigantic vat, right? And then barrique, which is a smaller French barrel. So mixture of those two. Or some other sites also have reported that it's just a mixture of barrique and fougera, and there's no stainless steel aging, even though it's made in stainless steel, fermented in stainless steel. So I couldn't really tell you. I couldn't really give you a confirmed information. But personally tasting this, it is, I don't see a whole lot of barrel fermentation influence on here. I do see some, like it's not a complete, like it doesn't taste like 100% stainless steel made in an aged wine, but it doesn't feel as much of a barrel influence that I might find in some other wines. So I think this is the D-stem portion, 25 to 60% again, was made in stainless steel, and then rest was carbonic, a whole bunch, and I think it's a mixture of stainless steel and fougera. It would be my guess, but I could not confirm. So in order to make that kind of stainless steel expression of the wine from here, because most wines in Beaujolais, they go through carbonic whole cluster usually in concrete. That's the most common traditional one. So in concrete, and then it's either aged in concrete or in fougera and other vessels, old barrels. By the way, none of this is new barrel. Everything is old oak. But I think this one is to kind of showcase more of the freshness of the fruit, and then kind of convey the varietal character of Gamay from this area and from Moulin-a-Vent, rather than showcasing kind of different winemaking and aging techniques that comes through. It tastes like that to me. Again, it could be a power of suggestion, knowing that this was made in stainless steel, but I do think that is what happened here. So I think this line, Laurent Perrachon, if I were to guess, was probably made in one of those wineries that I mentioned, the domains, Domaine La Botière or Perrachon or Mouy. But they don't put the domain name on there. Maybe it has the domain name. I didn't see it. Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, here you go. It's just a different Ludi, several Ludi in Moulin-a-Vent, mostly around Romanèche, Thorin, which is also in the soil map. If you see it in the bottom right, Pyrenean soil type is a unique pink granite. Yeah, so it doesn't say where the wine was made. It says it was made, bottled for Vin Perrachon Phil Julianas, but it doesn't tell you where exactly it was made. So yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing, again, this is just kind of like a personal kind of a passion project of wanting to do stainless steel instead of concrete and wood that you normally see. Cool. All right, let's taste the wine. Right, let me pull up the grid. Here we go. Start from the top. Sorry, it's hot now. This wine is, I'm gonna call this clear, but you can tell this wine is not fined or filtered. It's not like translucent. But for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna call this clear. Intensity. I'm gonna call this about medium. I mean, it's not super deep, but definitely not pale. So I'm gonna about medium intense color of. I'm gonna say ruby. I mean, this is pretty much all ruby. Maybe there's a little bit of. No, I'm gonna call it some ruby. Yeah, I thought maybe there's a little bit of blue coming in, but no, I'm gonna call this ruby. I don't see any bubbles. I don't see any sediments. I'm gonna call this no other observation. Nose. This one is clean. This one is sound. Intensity. I'm just smelling it here. It's actually quite expressive. Yeah, this is like up here. So this is like a few inches off. So I'm gonna call this definitely medium plus. Medium plus aromas of, what do I get? Very typical floral thing. That kind of like iris, violet, Maybe a little bit of rose as well. Something pretty floral going on here. By the way, like the Moulin-a-Vent, this is like there was one year, I think it was like 2022, we did a flurry that was not typical flurry. It was a lot more like burly and masculine, and it drank more like a Moulin-a-Vent than it did a flurry. I think this year is opposite. This Moulin-a-Vent is the prettier, kind of much lighter touch. Again, going back to that like stainless steel, and I think that's what they're trying to make with this wine. Much lighter touch, kind of prettier, more ethereal kind of style of Moulin-a-Vent. And to me, this feels so pretty. Like it. I mean, not that Moulin-a-Vent couldn't be pretty, but it just smells so well dressed. Not dressed up, but it's just very, very elegant and pretty. So definitely some floral notes here. No green fruit, no citrus fruit, no stone fruit, no tropical. Maybe some red fruit here. Yeah, like a black raspberry, but like not a ton of thing, but really it's the black fruit. Like this is a black cherry, black plum even, some blackberry, some of that bramble kind of a thing. Maybe that's what it is. And when I see some red fruit, is that brambly. I mean, they put it on their black fruit here, but to me, bramble is kind of like Zinfandel has its thing going on. Some grape varieties, it's hard to tell whether it's like black or red. Like black raspberry is a great example. Like to me, that's what bramble is. So yeah, it's like kind of like a little bit of brambliness, but definitely much more black dominant than it is red dominant here. Nature of the fruit, really fresh, really ripe. Maybe some like even like cooked fruit, pastel, those like hard candies kind of a thing going on here. But yeah, really, really ripe, really, really fresh. There's nothing like underripe, green, or anything like that here. Herbaceousness, maybe a little bit. Not like green or like a thorny or stemmy or anything like that, but there's like a little bit of like some sort of like the whole stem. Like I definitely see some whole stem, like the inclusion here, like the stem inclusion. Like that whole cluster spice that people talk about. There's a little bit of like dry leaves maybe. It's more like a lignified, which is like brown when the stem of the plant really gets like almost woody. That's called lignification. It's like the lignified stem rather than like a green stem, if that makes sense. No pungent spices, and not hugely minerally here, but I definitely do see the hints of granite here. There's definitely some crushed rocks, crushed granite influence coming in here. Yeah, definitely some crushed rocks here. Nothing secondary, nothing tertiary here. It's still very much in the primary, but very expressive, really elegant, really pretty, and definitely concentrated for sure. Again, this is kind of what we're talking about, like that manganese, that like concentration. A lot of times why Moulin-a-Vent becomes like one of the age-worthy ones is that manganese really concentrated flavors. There's so much intensity in the wine that as wine ages, there's plenty of primary that's still going to hold on, and then the rest can develop into tertiary, so you can have this like optimal layers of complexity in different things. All right, palate. First and foremost, this wine is delicious. I like this wine a lot. This wine is dry. It's bone dry. There's no sugar on this thing whatsoever. Acidity. There's quite a good amount of acidity here. I don't know if I go all the way to medium plus right now, but definitely higher than medium, lower than medium plus. I'm gonna call this a medium for now. Tannin, there's definitely tannin. This is not the most tannic Moulin-a-Vent I've ever had, and there's definitely much more structured Moulin-a-Vent out there. But again, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like what I was talking about. Like I think this particular bottling is they're trying to make Moulin-a-Vent that's a lot more approachable, a lot more like youthful and like ready to drink and pretty and light, rather than this kind of burly structure kind of Moulin-a-Vent that you normally find on the market. So to me, the tannin is not aggressive here. There's definitely some tannin. Yeah, feel it all the way through. Like you lower in the medium, high in the medium minus. Nothing crazy, but yeah, there's definitely some tannin. Alcohol, very typical. I don't know, 12.5, 13, somewhere around there. My label has been rubbed off, like exactly where it probably would say the alcohol, so I don't know. But I would say this is probably like 13%. This is what we got. And then again, this is also just like last week, it's a bottle that was returned back to me during the shipment, where they exploded other bottles. So sorry, the label is quite jacked up. Body. I'm gonna call that a medium, like a straight 2%. Mood, so we don't have to talk about. Flavor intensity, just like on the nose. I mean, nose was very expressive, and also just like other bottle, there may have been a little bit of freeze damage here, but the bottle that I remember having this bottle, and it was like just so pretty and fresh and all of that, but the fruit here seems to be a little tired, and I think it just maybe the freeze damage that is suffered on its way back. But I'm still gonna call this at least medium, bordering on medium plus. To me, this is more expressive on the nose than it is on the palate, but I still call this at least medium. Hold on, let me pour this new glass. Yeah, I'm gonna call this like high end of medium right now. Medium plus or medium intense aromas of everything. That I smell on the nose, I confirm all of that. It's got that really pretty violet. This is probably one of the most floral, kind of ethereal, elegant Moulin-a-Vent I've had, but yeah, definitely a lot of that kind of violet, like almost like dry rose petals. So a lot of that I get. No green fruit, no citrus stone. The food character here is much blacker than it is red. Blackberry, black cherry, black plum, all of that. Maybe a little bit of bramble, again, like black raspberry, that kind of stuff. The fruit is really ripe. It's fresh. It's beautifully farmed. Nothing underripe, nothing overripe. Nothing. There's a touch of savoriness here. That's what I've been trying to figure out this whole time. I mean, earlier on the nose, I call it like a lignified stem, but I definitely do see some of that stem inclusion. So yeah, the Perrachon, that was like the kind of this deep kind of black fruit, and a lot of that is probably coming from the D-stem portion of it, and then this kind of the pastille, like the hard candy side, as well as some of that lignified wood, some of that kind of stemmy spice that I'm getting is probably coming from the whole bunch. So you're kind of getting a little bit of both worlds here, which is really nice. But yeah, you got all of that. Really no spice. Not the most granitic mineral-driven wine, but definitely there's some crushed rock here. Yeah, it definitely gets some like layers of minerality running on the base of it all. No secondary, no tertiary, all kind of in the primary. Very fresh. All right, finish. All right, at least medium. Yeah, I'm gonna call this about medium. Might be high end of medium is about what I get right now. Conclusion. Let's put it all together. So, is this wine balanced? I think it's beautifully balanced. There's everything that's kind of layered, that's kind of in check with each other. Nothing sticking out too much. Very, very well balanced. Concentration we call medium plus. I was actually quite expressive on the nose, medium plus on the nose, We call it about medium, somewhere between medium and medium plus on the palate. So I'll say between that, we're gonna go somewhere between medium plus, but much closer to medium plus. I'm gonna call that medium plus. And then complexity, we got the flower, we got the black fruit, we got some both of the stemmy thing, a little bit of high tone, that kind of like the candy kind of fruit, as well as the pure like the stemmy, and then some like stemmy spiciness, minerality, but all in the primary, nothing really crazy. So I'll call that about medium. And then the length, we called it about medium as well. High end of medium, but still medium. So when you take average of all of that, we got balance, medium plus intensity, medium complexity, medium length. So we got 2 mediums and 1 medium plus. So somewhere landing between good and very good, but I'll probably call this good as of right now. Again, maybe there's some freeze damage that happened here. I do remember this wine being just really pretty when I first tasted it. And not that it's not pretty now, but it just seems a little more, the fruit character seems a little more tired. It's like they've aged a little bit over time, just from that freeze, and it just seems a little bit more locked up. I remember this being really expressive and lively and pretty. So yeah, you let me know if how your wine feels. But as of right now, I'm gonna call this good wine, with a 2 medium and a 1 medium plus. Readiness for drinking and potential for aging. I think this wine is beautiful right now. I think it's perfectly fine, perfectly delicious, and that's exactly what this Moulin-a-Vent was. I think they were trying to make. They were trying to make Moulin-a-Vent that you're not trying to age, that you want to drink right now. That's delicious, pretty elegant. That's not gonna rip your gum out or with tannin. So I think this is drinking beautifully. But we called it about medium, and the medium minus to medium, tannin, medium acid, so decent backbone. It's okay backbone. And then we got about medium plus intensity on the nose, medium on the palate, not a whole lot of things going on. So I don't think this is a wine that's going to be meant to be for age for a long time. I don't think it's going to fall apart anytime soon. So I would say drink this now, but drink it over next, 2 to 3 years, no problem. Maybe 5 years, and you may see some between 3 and 5. You may start to see some tertiary start to kick in a little bit. Some of these fruit maybe tire out a little bit, maybe change into some other things. But really, I think this wine is designed for immediate consumption, while it's youthful, pretty, elegant, and all of that. So yeah, drink it now over next 3 to 5 years, but between 2 to 3 years is probably it's a peak. Is what I would say. All right. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and if you want to play everybody's favorite game, pause the recording now, and you can come back to it. So, how much would you pay in a retail store? How much would you be happy paying for this on the retail store? And the answer is $23. Pretty good, right? Yeah, this was one of those bottles that were, okay, and that's another reason why I think this is more, especially like a Moulin-a-Vent to be on the lower side of 20. I do think this is meant to be much more like a fresher, drink it now kind of a wine rather than quote unquote serious, like age-worthy, long-lasting wine. That's part of the reason why I also thought this was besides the stainless steel, not seeing a whole lot of wood influence, aging influence, and all of that, and also the fact that it's named under his own name rather than the winery's domain's name. I do think this is exactly what's happening here. So $23, I'd be stoked if I paid $23 and got this bottle. I'd be very, very happy drinking this. So cool. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, and for those of you, I sent this email out on Beauj box that's not in the 6 Foot Wine Club. We're doing Wine Prom, which is in a little over 2 weeks. Exactly 2 weeks plus 1 day. So on the 28th, on Saturday 28th. So if you want to come, buy the ticket. Ticket price goes up next Wednesday, or Thursday. So by end of Wednesday will go up. So buy tickets. And come, we're gonna do a whole hog barbecue. We're gonna drink a whole ton of wine, and we're gonna dance. We're gonna pretend. We're gonna relive our glorious high school prom days as a full-on responsible or not so responsible adults. So it's gonna be a good time. All right. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week with Flurry. Toodles.